Lacrosse friends, welcome once again to Lacrosse Link, your link to all things lacrosse. Thanks for joining us here, whether you're watching on Lacrosse Sports Network on Thursday night or on the Lacrosse Link YouTube channel. Do make sure you subscribe, check it out every week. We are back with tons of great lacrosse content for you every week. We have some really neat stuff coming up in the next few weeks that we're working on. I think you're going to really enjoy. But this week, don't jump past it. We have a great rundown coming up. Don't jump ahead to that either, because we have two excellent interviews with Chris Corbeil and Callum Crawford. That's 4 C's in the names and lots of candor and interesting conversation with two leading players in the National Lacrosse League, both coming off big wins for their teams last week in the NLL and looking forward to carrying over that success going forward. I'm Stephen Stamp. This is Lacrosse Link, your link to all things lacrosse.
Beautiful play, Aaron Greyeyes. He is having himself a tournament. He made the save regardless of the crease call, and that shows he is at his acrobatic. In the middle, it just bounces off, but it's picked up and scored.
Joining me on Lacrosse Link is Callum Crawford of the New York Riptide. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Stephen, thanks for having me.
Great to have you on. Great to catch up with you there in Tulsa. And I'm just wondering, first off, what it felt like for you guys as the New York Riptide get your first home win of the season after a bunch of close calls that just didn't quite work out. Was it a big relief? How'd you guys feel when the buzzer went?
It was exciting. It was fun. There was just so many people for that win was really big. Obviously, as an organization, nothing to do with the opponent. Then there's a bunch of guys in that locker room with that being the opponent. It was huge. There's just so much that went into that win that we were playing for outside of ourselves. That was awesome to get it. Obviously, the monkey of getting a home win off of our backs is huge. So just obviously wins are not easy to come by in this league. We've been struggling to get them. So anytime you can get one, you got to be excited and enjoy it.
And who are you talking about when you say so many things and people you were working for to get it outside of the team? Who are you talking about?
Well, just everybody, right? That organization in general getting a home win. For the fan base, for them, it's just the first is always the hardest and everything. Once you have it, you can stop worrying about that and just play. So obviously for those guys, the front office, the GMs, the ownership, the fans, getting them a home win is huge and being able to build on that now. And then obviously a lot of guys that came from that organization over there on our roster right now that have a history, whether it's coaches or players and stuff. So being somebody who's played for so many different organizations, I know what it's like when you want to be successful when you play your old foe, your old teammates, an organization, not out of spite, but just it's a personal thing. It's not a vendetta or anything, but it just holds a little bit of weight to yourself. So being able to do that, I know it means a lot to guys.
And Toronto is one of the teams you haven't played for, right?
No, I've never played for Toronto, unfortunately.
But they were a team that was on a roll, on a winning streak, playing very well, and a big challenge that you guys rose to. And watching the game, I mean, it was so back and forth, so many highs and lows and ups and downs as you go. But the resiliency. It feels like your team has been getting close. You've had the 3 overtime losses at home. You've been so close. Was there anything like you talked about as the game came down towards the end to try and change that? Or can you even think about that in the heat of the moment?
Well, first off, that is a very talented, very strong team front to back. Their offense is incredibly dynamic on both sides of the floor. Everybody talks about their righties, and as they should. Those lefties over there are extremely athletic. They can create. They play well together. Very talented offense. And then that back end, obviously, Challen Rogers is incredible. Desnu, Latrell, Brad Cree is one of the best in the league. And so that team is a championship caliber team. So for us to be able to play them like we did and compete with a team like that is a lot, says a lot for us. They're probably looking at it as in we had an off day or something. And I don't think they were bad. I don't think they made a ton of mistakes. I think we stepped up when we needed to. Our goaltending bailed us out when he needed to. Our defense created when they needed to. The only, I don't even know if it's considered an adjustment, was Laddie just talking to us about this is where you learn to win. That's something we have to learn. And we talked about it on the bench and toward in there. And it was, you guys got to figure it out and learn how. And this is the opportunity to learn how. And we were able to take that step that game.
Wow, that's really cool. And I wonder, as the offense, I mean, you talked about, Stephen Orleman made some great saves, like really, like you said, he bailed you out, but the defense stepped up and made some plays. But at the same time, you guys have been giving up an average of 13.7 goals a game. You've played 9 games, and in 5 of them, you've given up 13 goals. So is there some pressure on the team, on the forwards, on you and Jeff Teat and Connor Kieran and all the guys, to know that, hey, we need to score 14 against some really good defenses and goalies to get a win?
Not pressure at all. We kind of have a number. Our coaches and management came in with a bunch of statistics on winning and what other teams are doing, and we have a certain goal that we need to get to as an offense, and it has nothing to do with the level of how our defense is playing or whatnot. We need to get there just as a standard for this league. So that's the only thing we kind of talk about. We don't talk about, our defenses, if they are struggling at times, and there are times where we're struggling, right? And that's part of the game. Obviously, you want to be able to have both ends firing at the same time. It rarely happens, right? A lot of times it's one side is playing really well and the other side's, struggling, and then it flip-flops. So, and we've seen that happen to us this year. There's a couple of times where our offense has struggled and our defense has stood out for us. So.
And I wasn't trying to get you to throw the defense or goaltending under the bus.
No, I know.
I appreciate the way you handled it, but I want to talk about the offense, because you've got Connor Kieran, who's having a breakout season. You've got, I think Kieran McArdle is playing his best lacrosse in the box game. Sundown and all these guys, but obviously a lot of the attention goes on you, and particularly on Jeff Teat. And what Jeff did on the weekend, I thought was pretty amazing. He had at least three crossbars, right, on top of his 4 goals. He makes things look so easy, and I'm wondering how challenging it's been to get used to playing with him, if it's really easy to play with Jeff, or if there's things you guys had to learn about his game to get used to.
He's easy to play with. He's an incredibly selfless player. He's awesome. For me, I haven't played with somebody in a really long time where I didn't know I was the best player on this team. This is the first time in a long time for me playing with somebody that I personally think is better than I am. And that's got nothing to do with me. That's just my appreciation of how good I think he is. So me finding that healthy balance of still providing my unique skill set that can help this team, but also allowing that ball to get through to our best player. And that is him. Nothing to do with trying to big up, a young guy or a rookie. It's just purely, that's a special young man. And I can see it as his teammate. I'm not one that watched a ton of lacrosse and watched him before getting the chance to play with him. So I'm probably a little bit more in appreciation than a lot of people who watched him grow into this special human. But for me, that's been kind of the biggest thing, is trying to still find that healthy balance of doing the things that I can provide, but also making sure that ball runs through your team's best player.
One of the things I saw somebody post on Twitter was that they, talking to somebody they know from around the team, one of the equipment guys or whoever, said, Jeff's always offering to help out with the equipment. Like, hey, is there anything I can do to help? Which is not what you expect necessarily. Maybe from a rookie, but certainly not from the guy who's leading the league in points per game. And I'm wondering how that impacts the team and makes everyone else feel like, hey, we're all just here doing this together.
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't know he was doing that, but that's awesome, right? But that speaks wonders of character. Those are the little things that stand out to people, right? And it's not something that's necessarily vocalized and out on notice, but that's what makes people special. We are all equals. Just because we can do certain things better on floor than maybe other people, it doesn't mean we are greater as humans. And I come from a generation that rookies did rookie things, and I still believe in those things. It doesn't happen like it used to at all, and that's not meant as a complaint, but for him, probably recognizing he is a rookie and offering a hand when he needs to, and it just speaks more about the character that he is.
So you're saying that Jeff doesn't carry your equipment bag?
No, he doesn't. I don't play super super vet at all, as much as, sometimes it would be nice, but it's just not the generation we're in anymore. But I don't think he would be opposed to it if that was the culture of lacrosse still, right? Where rookies had to do all the things. I don't think he's somebody who would act like he's above it at all. It's just not his personality. It's not his demeanor. So I'm sure if that was part of the culture, he probably would be a guy that would happily do it.
Last thing I wanted to ask about was always the question when you get a big win like this, it's quite a bit of a milestone for the franchise. Where do you go from here? How do you keep it going and keep getting more wins, both at home and on the road?
It's just figuring out what we did that allowed us to be successful and fix the things that we need to clean up. Toronto very well could have won that game as well. There were a ton of things that we got either some luck on, or somebody made a big individual play to bail us out. But it could have gone either way. That wasn't for sure. This is a Riptide win, right? So I think we still need to figure out how to get to that game where, this has been our game from start to finish, and there's no question whether we won this game or not.
It's nice to have some of those, right?
Well, you need them, right? And that is the true key to a team that's going to compete for a championship. Is there's games where it's just theirs, and you could tell they won this game in every facet. The outcome doesn't always dictate who won that game. And yes, in the win column it does. But when I just reviewed the game, they had a lot of really beautiful takes underneath and stuff where Orleman made some great saves and everything. So they could have won that game for sure. And for us, it's tightening up, scoring some extra goals. We threw the ball away a bunch of times, down some critical times. I coughed that ball up with 30 seconds left in the corner. Little things like that where we out the front door potentially could have cost us that game as well. Played a little bit more defense than we needed to, which allows them to have those extra opportunities. So there's things to clean up, right? It wasn't like, hey, we were great. We got to enjoy that win. Look at what helped us get that win, but figure out, if we play that same game, I don't think we necessarily win it this weekend. So being a little bit better this week is the key to success.
Always appreciate your time and your candor, Callum. It's great to catch up, and look forward to seeing you in a rink soon.
Appreciate it. Good talking.
Joining me on Lacrosse Link from the Saskatchewan Rush, their captain, Chris Corbeil. Great to catch up and have you on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So a big win for you guys on the weekend, and we talked about it before. Dylan Ward didn't make it easy on you, but what an important win. And it's been such a strange season for the Rush. It's been a while, I know, since you were 2-6, and I'm wondering how guys have been feeling, because it feels to me like it's been close. You haven't been way off. It's just there seem to be little things in a lot of the games. And how does it feel to have turned that around and got the win? And do you feel like that's kind of a critical moment, or does it feel like you just go back to the drawing board and just keep going?
Yeah, a lot to unpack there. Obviously, the feeling's been a lot of frustration for the guys in the dressing room. Because to your point, it's we have high expectations for this group. And if you look at our record, it's obviously quite disappointing. But if you break it down on a game by game basis, we're really close in most of these games that we've ended up dropping. It seems like we're, on the fringe of breaking through and having different results. But at the same time, we feel like if we're playing our best, we should be winning by a margin where, those bounces and a bad penalty here and there doesn't impact the result of the game. Right. And I think we, in years past, we've had that success. So, I mean, going back to this weekend, it was a massive, massive win for us, huge source of relief. But, we're still, it's not like, okay, now we're in a playoff position and we're good. We're 3-6. We're still trailing teams in our division and the potential crossover team from the East. So, immediately let's focus on Fort Worth, and we got to ensure we don't take a team like that lightly. And that's a really, really important game for us.
Especially after they just beat another West Division team that was ahead of you both in the standings.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a team that, didn't play us great their first time around. I'm sure they're going to be motivated to play us better. It's a home game for them. There's a lot going for them. Like you said, they're riding a 1-game win streak. So we don't anticipate that being an easy game for us this weekend.
Did the game on last weekend against Colorado feel very different? You said, you felt like you were close in a lot of the games. I felt the same thing watching. It seemed like there were just a couple of moments. Did it feel particularly different, or did it just feel like the outcome was different?
No, it felt like the outcome was different, to be honest. I think, it felt like a playoff game, if I'm being honest. Like I think I said to Kyle Rubish, my roommate, afterward, like, I don't think I've been that emotional during a game that hasn't been a playoff game in my career, really. Maybe my first game ever. But the ups and downs of that, and feeling like our season was sort of hanging in the balance is the truth of it. And then so in that regard, it felt different. But I mean, it was sort of the same old story for us that we've been experiencing all year, in terms of coming out to a really good start, going into halftime with a little bit of a lead, and then having that team sort of stick around and crawl back. And, even though we were out shooting them, and you talked about Ward's performance, felt like we were all over them, but they hung around long enough that they were able to tie the game and send it to overtime with a last-minute possession. And, thank God Penny made a couple stops on those breakaways in overtime, because that was the difference.
And you bring Eric Penny in. This is the second time this year he's gone to a new team, as he signed with Philadelphia when they had to have him go in and play for Zach Higgins. And he was great. He had an .833 save percentage in that game, and was really, I thought, outstanding for them against Georgia for having just joined a new team. He comes in again, still wearing the white helmet and gloves, because he didn't even have time to get the green and black gear. And he comes in and again played very well, and looks, I think it's remarkable. I mean, he's played in the league, and he's had some success, especially his last season before the lockout, or going into the lockout, the shutdown. But
the lockout season.
Yeah, he just looked so comfortable again behind a whole new set of guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big part of it. It's, you look at who he's played for behind in the past, and they were some Vancouver Warriors teams that, let's be honest, weren't great defensively. Now I think Vancouver's improved a ton defensively and is a completely different look now than they were. So I'm not trying to give anybody any bulletin board material here, but the reality is, he was seeing some pretty high quality shots. So if his statistics weren't looking great, I'm sure that was a large part of it. With that being said, we're a team now that has two great options in between the pipes with Penny and Shoot. And this is a group that's still got a ton of confidence in Shoot. I think we were just looking to alleviate some of the pressure that was on Adam Shoot, because I think, it felt like the weight of the world was on him. And now, again, management feels like we got two real good options, and hopefully this can be the turning point for us.
I wonder, I looked at some teams going into the seasons. We're doing our predictions on IL Indoor and that, and I was thinking, okay, Albany, they've had a lot of changes. They've lost Crawford. They've brought guys in, all these things. And I'm thinking another team like Calgary went through a lot of changes. I thought, you know what, they're going to have some issues early on in the season, and then they should get better as they go. But all of us at IL Indoor listed you guys as our predictions to come first overall in the standings. And now I look at it and I think Saskatchewan went through just as much change, maybe more. Maybe we should have expected, and that there would have been more growing pains early on with, the new goalie and the new head coach and so many new players, the right side almost completely revamped. Maybe were we silly? Like, did you guys expect to go through growing pains?
No, I didn't. Yes, we expect to go through growing pains, but hey, listen, I wasn't, whispering behind people's backs heading into the season like, oh, everybody's got it wrong, we're going to be in tough this year. But, we went into that game, that season opener against Halifax, and I'm thinking like, oh, this is a preview of a final here, a battle between two top teams in the East and the West. And, Halifax is obviously doing pretty well this season and find themselves close to the standings, and we've gone on a different trajectory. So it's surprising for us, but you bring up some good points, and maybe we were blind to it too. There has been a lot of turnover. Offensively, obviously, I think has been sort of the focal point of the media pointing out where our struggles have been. We had a big change in net that we just talked about, and even defensively, like I get it, the core of our group is still there, but the way you think about a defense working, you really need all 5 guys on the same page. So even if you've only changed, call it 3 or 4 guys on the back end, if that's a new system to 2 of your 5 guys on the floor at every point during the game, that's big turnover. So yeah, you know what? I think we're going through that. I think our offense is still growing. I think even defensively, we're still making adjustments and trying to iron out some wrinkles that just comes with a lack of familiarity with each other. And I'll be honest, like, it becomes a challenge when you're fighting for practice time in the season. Things aren't going well for you, and it's a grind. Like, we couldn't practice last weekend in Colorado before the game, so we had a shoot around before the game, and it's a matinee game, so that creates all kinds of problems. Luckily, we were able to practice this weekend, but we're on a road trip now to I think our next 3 are Fort Worth, San Diego, and Calgary. And I don't know what the schedule looks like, but I don't anticipate getting too many practices in. So it's hard when you're pressed for time, right? And you're limited to doing, video conference calls and your shoot arounds the mornings before games where you don't want to go too hard. So all of that, it does present a bit of a challenge for sure.
To me, one of the maybe slight differences from early in the season has been seeing you and Kyle Rubish in particular. A lot of guys play well, but I felt like last weekend may have been one of your best games in a while. Like, you just looked like you had more jump. You looked more like yourself, the guy we've been used to. And I think Rubish has come on kind of from a few games in. I feel like he's playing back at the level when he won a bunch of Defender of the Year awards. And I feel like maybe that, like, you guys just getting back to your game, being fully healthy, being, right on top of things, maybe that was enough to push you over and turn the tide.
I hope so. A lot of pressure on the 2 of us, though.
There's lots of other guys. I mean, Messenger and Piers and McClellan. Like, there's lots of guys contributing. Dilks.
Absolutely. Listen, your points on Kyle for sure. I mean, you look at the way he's played. I would say the last 4 or 5 games, probably, since about the Albany game. Yeah, he's been his old dominant self, which is great to see, and just a difference maker out there and creating so much havoc. The only thing, like, you can only play a guy so much, and you want to play him every single shift of every game. Unfortunately, he does burn out the odd time, so you gotta try and pace him. And then with myself, I was dealing with some health stuff early on in the year. Had my appendix removed at Christmas, so I think that was good to get behind me, and I am feeling a lot better and healthier, and sort of feel like I've been able to pick up my play and hopefully can continue doing that. And let's be honest, I mean, I think a lot of guys in the league come in with a bit of rust. I didn't have the advantage of being a guy that got to play in the PLL the last couple summers or something like that. So I got in 2 or 3 games with Brooklyn, and that was the best I could do. And there's definitely some rust to brush off, but hopefully we can build off this win and, some good individual performances and keep going from there.
Always great to catch up. Appreciate you coming on. Nice to see where you work a little bit, and look forward to running into you at a rink soon, Corbs.
All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me, and always great catching up with you too, Stanford.
Hi, this is Jaden with Al Anderson Source for Sports. Excited to tell you that we got all our new lacrosse product in for this upcoming season. Whether you're playing box or field, our lacrosse experts are going to make sure we get you into the right equipment to elevate your game. At Al Anderson Source for Sports, we know our stuff.
Welcome to the rundown section of Lacrosse Link. Lacrosse friends, we have some really interesting stories from around the world of lacrosse for you. I just found out about the North American Indigenous Athletics Hall of Fame. I saw a post from the Netherlands Lacrosse about Neil Paulus being inducted into this Hall of Fame. So I went and looked into it. There are about 7 Indigenous athletes from lacrosse in this inaugural class that just came out this month, well, last month now, as we go to air. And I just thought it was fascinating. I'm going to look more into it, and we're going to have some interviews. We're going to talk to, I think, the founder of the Hall of Fame, maybe get some of the athletes on. But I just want to let you guys know that it exists. It is out there. You can look it up, the North American Indigenous Athletics Hall of Fame. Really interesting and cool project that someone has got rolling. Out west in Canada, the Arena Lacrosse League West, the Sea Spray have clinched first place in the All West division going into the final week of play, which is happening as we are editing this show. But they have already clinched the top spot. We're going to take a look at some of the highlights from that win that clinched that for them. But the Arena Lacrosse League West is heading into playoffs very soon. So interesting to see how that season is playing out and the way that they are evolving. Of course, Arena Lacrosse League East getting well into its season now. Quite a weekend last weekend with a first place battle between the Peterborough Timbermen and the Six Nations Snipers. The Snipers actually beat Peterborough in Millbrook, the Peterborough home rink, on Saturday to move into a tie for first, but the tiebreaker from that win gave them first. Then Sunday, the Snipers played again, and they lost that game to fall to 4-2. So Peterborough kind of backed back into first place. But that is going to be an interesting one to watch down the stretch with the Arena Lacrosse League East as well. So lots of cool stuff going on there. Last weekend, the Ontario Junior Lacrosse League held their entry draft, and I don't know. So kudos to all the teams for being able to figure out who they wanted to draft when the minor lacrosse programs haven't been able to play for a couple of years. A lot of work, I know, going on behind the scenes for all the teams to figure out these top players. It's always challenging guessing which 16-year-olds are going to wind up being the best 8, 19, 20, 21-year-olds and on. But even more challenging when they haven't had a chance to see these guys play for a couple of years. You're going back to their bantam years. So really interesting. You can go check out the OJLL on their social media platforms and see all the results of the draft. Peterborough had 3 picks in the first round. Orangeville had the first pick and another pick in the first round. So lots of teams adding some really key pieces. And there were a bunch of trades leading up to it that you can go find some of the info about that on the OJLL website. Out east, as we make our way across the country from coast to coast, the ECJLL women's division or female division is having their combine. It is coming up in a couple of weeks. The info is there on their webpage. You can check them out on Twitter as well, the ECJLLF. And really cool to see that. We've talked about the women's game growing out west with the Arena Lacrosse League West women's division, the She-Box tournament overseas. Lots of amazing stuff happening in the box game for women. And the East Coast Junior League is another example of that. We're going to take a look at some things that happened last weekend here, some highlights. So many cool things, so many highlights happening last weekend. The one-man highlight package, though, Austin Stotts, 4 goals, all of them incredible. We're going to run all 4 of them here. I just have to speak long enough to let you see them all. But it is quite a package of goals that he put together. And as always, he probably enjoyed scoring as much as or more than any other player in lacrosse. He loves putting the ball in the net. The crazy thing, he actually had a 5th one, but it was disallowed because he shot it. The head of the stick was behind the goal line. The head of the stick has to be in front of the goal line for a goal to count. You can't just be behind him bouncing in and off the goalie. So a bunch of amazing goals. Hope you're enjoying them, and obviously more to come from Austin Stotts and all the great players in the National Lacrosse League. And finally, we have a couple of contenders from the last 2 weeks for Unorthodox Save of the Year. So there are lots of great Save of the Year candidates. Warren Hill's been throwing some up. Zach Higgins, there have been some great saves, but our 2 contenders, and we're going to let you see them both. One from last week, in case you haven't seen it yet, Jesse King with the empty net. Yes, the star forward for the Calgary Roughnecks goes back between the pipes and throws up the stick and makes an incredible save against Vancouver. Reminded me immediately of Kim Squire doing the same thing in an old CLAX game, which I've been trying to track down. I don't think the footage is available, which is a shame because that was a spectacular play. But Jesse King with the unorthodox Save of the Year to this point. But then Matt Vince, again, an empty net situation. He's pulled at the end of, I think it was the first quarter or the third quarter. End of one of the quarters, Buffalo and Rochester. Rylan Hartley makes a save, realizes he's got a few seconds to shoot the ball. So he gets up, plays blown in, he fires the ball, looks like it's going into the net. Matt Vince, you don't even see it on the original camera angle. We have to go to the replay. He is sprinting off the bench. And if you don't know, Matt Vince is one of the most athletic players in the National Lacrosse League. Not just goalies, one of the most athletic players. When he and Aaron Bold both played for Rochester, I remember people on the team telling me those two would test first and second in all the fitness testing for the team. So he's an athletic goalie. He dives, sprawls flat out, and knocks the ball down as it's headed to the net. And maybe in time it would have been a goal. So what a save. Unorthodox save of the year candidate. You decide which is the leader at this point, and maybe there'll be more to come down the road. Thanks for being with us, lacrosse friends, for another great episode of Lacrosse Link. I hope you enjoyed the conversations with Callum Crawford and Chris Corbeil as much as I did. They are two of my favorite guys to talk to in the league. They're so candid and open and interesting and such smart lacrosse guys. I had a lot of fun. Hope you did too. I'm Steven Stamp, your host for Lacrosse Link, your link to all things lacrosse. Make sure you subscribe. Join us every week here, and we'll see you next time.